Today we will discuss about the different types of hosts which we come across in the relationship which is called as parasitism. So hosts are organisms which play a role in harboring the parasites either outside their body or inside their body, and they provide them facilities for their growth and reproduction, and they also provide a ground for bringing about their transmission. And these hosts are put under several categories. So we will see the four types of hosts which the four types of terms which are used in parasitology with regard to hosts. So first one is a definitive host and an intermediate host. So we will just have a comparison. Definitive host is that host which harbors the adult parasite, or definitive host is that host in which the parasite undergoes the sexual phase of its reproduction. So definitive hosts are organisms that support the sexual or the reproductive forms of the parasites. We will take an example. We take the case of the malaria causing protozoan, that is Plasmodium vivax. It causes malaria in humans, and this is spread through the bite of a mosquito, that is the Anopheles mosquito. The infective stages of Plasmodium, they get access into the human body through the bite of female Anopheles mosquito. And when you take the life cycle of Plasmodium vivax, we can see that there is a phase in its life cycle which is completed inside the body of female Anopheles mosquito, and there is its second part which is completed in man. So for completion of life cycle of Plasmodium vivax, it has to spend its life in two different hosts. They are man and Anopheles mosquito. So between these two hosts, who is the definitive host and who is the intermediate host? So when we check the life cycle of Plasmodium, we can see that its sexual reproduction takes place inside the body of female Anopheles mosquito. So in that case, so in biological terms, the female Anopheles mosquito is the definitive host and humans are the intermediate hosts. Now, you take the case of another organism, another nematode, that is Wuchereria bancrofti, or the filarial worm which causes filariasis in man. Here also, this is spread through female Culex mosquito, and when we examine the life cycle of Wuchereria, we can see that a part of its life cycle is spent in Culex and the other part in man. So the entire life cycle will be completed only if it switches over between these two hosts, that is man and Culex mosquito. But in this case, the sexual reproduction of Wuchereria bancrofti takes place in humans. So in that case, humans are the definitive host, whereas the Culex mosquito is the intermediate host. So in biological terms, in the case of Plasmodium, man is an intermediate host, whereas Anopheles mosquito is the definitive host because the sexual phase of the parasite is completed in Anopheles mosquito. Whereas in the case of Wuchereria bancrofti, the sexual phase of life cycle is completed in man. So man is the definitive host or primary host, and female Culex mosquito is the secondary host or the intermediate host. So we will just have a comparison. Here definitive hosts support the sexual reproduction, whereas intermediate hosts support the asexual reproductive phase of the parasite. Definitive hosts are called primary hosts, the intermediate hosts are called secondary hosts. In definitive host, sexual reproduction occurs, in intermediate host, asexual reproduction occurs. So in which host will the zygote formation occur? It will be in the definitive host, and here the examples are given. And there are other parasites for whom man is the primary host. For example, the tapeworm, then Enterobius or the pinworm. In all those cases, man is the definitive host. Now, we will just go to some other examples also. So here comes the life cycle of Plasmodium, where the sporozoid, the infective stage of Plasmodium, is injected into the body of man through mosquito bite, and here a part of the life cycle will be completed, and this stage will enter into mosquito, and gamete formation, sexual reproduction, etc. occurs in the gut of mosquito. So, mosquito, the female Anopheles mosquito is the primary host and man is the secondary host in biological terms. But in clinical terms, we often say man is the primary host because it is he who gets the infection. But in biological terms, man is secondary host because only asexual reproduction of the parasite takes place in human body. Then, here you take the case of tapeworm. So, this is the adult tapeworm. This is the adult tapeworm. So, from an infected person's feces, the eggs or the gravid progrotids of this tapeworm, they will be passed to the environment and they are often ingested by cattle, pigs, etc. And inside the body, there will be formation of oncospheres. They penetrate the intestinal wall of these organisms and they come to the muscles of these organisms, and the embryonic stage called as the oncosphere of this parasite will now develop into cysticerci in the muscle of this pig. And if such muscle or if pig meat is consumed by humans, if the pig meat is undercooked, then these cysticerci can get into his body. And it is inside the human intestine that the reproduction takes place. That is, it is a self-fertilizing organism, this tapeworm. All such events take place inside the human intestine. So, human is the primary host. So, for parasites such as Taenia, Wuchereria, Enterobius, etc., man is the definitive host. In the same example, what is the status of pig? Pig is the secondary host. Now, I will take you to a parasite who has got one definitive host and two intermediate hosts. And it is a helminth parasite by genus name Diphyllobothrium. So, it is a helminth parasite which is living in the small intestine of man, dog, cat, fox and other fish eating mammals. So, these are all the primary host or the definitive host of this tapeworm, which is called as Diphyllobothrium. So, we will see what happens. So, this is the parasite, the anterior region of the body of this parasite. It is a kind of tapeworm. From the infected person's feces, the unembryonated eggs are reaching the environment and the eggs undergo embryonation in water. From these embryonated eggs, the Coracidia, a kind of embryonic stage, will hatch out from the eggs and they are now consumed by a crustacean living in water. So, this crustacean is called as Cyclops, that is the genus name. So, this is Cyclops, and Cyclops is the first intermediate host. So, man is the definitive host. From his feces, the embryonated stages come to soil through his feces, then they come in water by contamination through feces, then the Coracidia hatch out and they are consumed by a crustacean which lives in water. It is called as Cyclops. Now, in Cyclops, the next stage, that is procercoid larvae, they will develop in the body of this Cyclops. Now, from the body of Cyclops, the procercoid larvae, so this infected crustacean, this procercoid larvae released from the crustacean develop into the plerocercoid larvae, and this infected Cyclops, so it is having now this parasite in the procercoid form, and now this crustacean will be ingested by fish, small fishes. So, fishes become the second intermediate host. Okay. Now, if these fishes are consumed by man, if in undercooked form, what happens? The man along with this fish, he is ingesting plerocercoids and they will develop into adult worms in his body. So here in the life cycle, we are not concerned about the various larval stages. We just want to see through which all host this parasite passes. The definitive host is man, dog, birds, cats, etc. From their feces they come to soil and then to water. From there it enters into the body of Cyclops, which is the first intermediate host. Then from the body of Cyclops through food chain it gets into the body of small fishes, and if these small fishes are consumed by humans, what happens? The humans are again infected. Okay, so here there are two intermediate hosts. So there are some parasites who have two intermediate hosts in their life cycle, and the example is Diphyllobothrium. So now moving on from a definitive host and an intermediate host, we will go to two other hosts, two terms which often come across in parasitology. They are paratenic host and reservoir host. So what is a paratenic host? Sometimes the parasite will enter a host in which it does not undergo any development, but it gets into the body of this host. Inside the host body it will remain alive until it gains entry into the body of the definitive host or the intermediate host. So it enters into the body of this paratenic host. It will be maintained inside the body of the paratenic host, but no stage of life cycle or no transition of life cycle stages will be carried out in the body of this host. So these hosts are only important for the completion of the life cycle of certain parasites, because they bridge the ecological gap between the intermediate and the definitive host. So they are just carriers which will bridge the geographical gap or the ecological gap between the intermediate and the definitive hosts. So we will take an example for a paratenic host. So paratenic host is a kind of intermediate host which is not needed for the development of the parasite, but it serves to maintain the life cycle of the parasite. So it gets into the body of the parasite through ingested food. It can get into the body through ingested food. Now I'll take you to the example, that is, here the parasite is a trematode by name Alaria americana. So this is the parasite. Who is the definitive host or the primary host is dog. So for this trematode, dog is the primary host. Now who is the intermediate host or the secondary host? Secondary host is frog or tadpole. So trematode parasite Alaria americana, whose definitive host is dog and whose intermediate host is tadpole. So there is a stage in its life cycle which is called as mesocercaria. So this mesocercaria, it is the mesocercarial stage of this parasite which lives inside tadpole. Now from there they have to enter into the dog's body. How? The dog has to eat this tadpole. But we know that the dogs usually don't eat tadpoles. They are very rare in feeding on tadpoles. But there is another organism which more frequently feeds on tadpole, that is the snake. So what happens there? Rather than the dog eating this tadpole, the tadpole is more frequently preyed on and eaten by the snake. And what happens? The mesocercariae of the parasite, which now resides inside the tadpole, gets into the body of snake. Now in the body of snake it will survive, but they won't undergo any further development. Now there is a chance where the snake can be consumed by a dog. Now what happens? From the snake's body, the mesocercarial stage will enter into the dog's body, where the subsequent part of its life cycle will be carried. So when you take the case of trematode, the life cycle stages are completed only in tadpoles and dogs. There is no life cycle stage which undergoes transition inside the body of the snake, but this snake only acts as a transporter to transport this parasite's mesocercarial stage from tadpole to dog. How? Because the mesocercaria live inside tadpole. Tadpole will be taken up by snake, and snake will, when eaten by dog, the mesocercaria enter into the body of the dog. But life cycle stages are carried out only in tadpoles and dogs, not in snakes. So that is how snake acts as a paratenic host. So for the development of this parasite, the or any important stage in the life cycle of this parasite is not carried out in this snake, but the snake serves to maintain the life cycle of the parasite by helping it to get transferred from the tadpole's body into the dog's body. Another example is a nematode, and this nematode is this is the nematode which is the parasite. So in its life cycle, the slug is an intermediate host, and mustelids are the definitive host. So what are mustelids? Mustelids are carnivorous mammals including weasels, badgers, otters, ferrets, minks, wolverines, etc. In the life cycle of this nematode, slug, the molluscan, is the intermediate host, and mustelids are definitive hosts. But often for its transmission, a third host comes up, that is the paratenic host. Here, who is the paratenic host? Shrews and rodents act as paratenic hosts. How? This nematode is residing inside the body of slug. Slug will be consumed by a shrew or a rodent, and the shrew or rodent will be consumed by this mustelid. So that is how the nematode reaches the body of mustelid. But in its life cycle stages will be completed in slug and mustelid, not in shrew or rodent. That is why we call the shrew and rodent to be a paratenic host. We take one more example, the same Diphyllobothrium which we discussed. It is a parasitic organism. It is a parasitic flatworm, which I said whose life cycle is completed in one definitive host, which includes man, cat, dog, birds, etc., and two intermediate hosts. One is Cyclops. A part of its life cycle is being completed in Cyclops. The next part will be completed in the body of small fish, and from there it enters into human body. But sometimes what happens? The small fish, which is the second intermediate host of Diphyllobothrium, the small fish will be often consumed by large fishes or large predatory fishes. And the stage of this Diphyllobothrium, which is seen inside the small fish, is called as procercoid larva. Procercoid larva, and it enters into the body of this large fish. Now, in this large fish, no stage of life cycle of this parasite will be completed. It will just act as an organism which will harbor the parasite. And if this fish is eaten by these hosts, again there is a chance for this parasite to enter into the body of these definitive hosts. So in this case, this fish is not required. We need not include this fish in completion of life cycle of this parasite. Even without entering the body of this large fish, its life cycle will be completed in these three hosts, that is the definitive host, the first intermediate host, and the second intermediate host. But often another host comes into play, in whose body no life stages of parasite will be changing. So such a host is called as a paratenic host. So here this predatory fish can be considered as a paratenic host. Now we will come to another host which is called reservoir host. It is an organism in which a parasite which is pathogenic for some other species lives and multiplies usually without damaging the host. For example, Leishmania is a protozoan parasite whose primary host is man. So human being is the host species, its primary host species, but sometimes it may live and multiply inside the body of dog and cats without causing diseases in them or without damaging the host. Such hosts are called as reservoir hosts. So we will again have a closer look at what is a reservoir host. So it is an organism that harbors a pathogen but suffers no ill effects. But it can serve as a source of infection to other species which are susceptible. And the examples are, as already discussed, in Leishmania, in the life cycle of Leishmania, the protozoan parasite, man is the definitive host. But often it can be seen in dogs also, where it does not cause any damage. The same can be seen in the life cycle of the protozoan parasite Endemoeba histolytica. Its definitive host is man, but often it can be found inside dogs. Now you take the case of Trypanosoma, again a parasite, a protozoan parasite which infects humans, which is in the cerebrospinal fluid, and often it can be seen in monkeys, apes, deer, etc. for long periods of time, and they will act as reservoirs. And in the reservoir's body, these organisms do not undergo any change. But from the body of the reservoir, they can get into the body of humans. So in a reservoir host, the parasite will survive, but it need not undergo any change. You cannot expect any evolutionary changes. But the reservoir only acts as a storehouse for maintaining the parasite. It won't get any disease, it doesn't show any ill effect, but at the same time it can be infective to the definitive host, that is humans. So how do we differentiate between a paratenic host and a reservoir host? The reservoir host can also be considered as a primary host, whereas paratenic host serves as dumps for non-mature stages of a parasite, in which they can accumulate in high numbers. So a reservoir host species will be very close to the definitive host species, phylogenetically close to the definitive host species, but paratenic host need not be. So that is the difference. In this context, we have to mention about the much discussed topic, that is the coronavirus. The coronaviruses are known to infect humans, and there are three major diseases which have coronavirus diseases which have caused death tolls in humans. That is the SARS-CoV, the severe acute respiratory distress syndrome that arose in 2003, the MERS-CoV, the Middle East respiratory syndrome that arose in 2012, and the SARS-CoV-2, that is the COVID-19, which arose in 2019. All these diseases are caused by coronaviruses. But when you take the origin of the coronavirus, the ancestral coronavirus is believed to have taken its origin in bats. So bats are the natural hosts of the coronaviruses. And studies have proven that from the bat, which is the natural host or the evolutionary host, bat is considered to be the evolutionary host, from where it has also got into the body of other mammals like pangolins, civet cats, pangolins, camels, pigs, etc. So this is a diagram which shows you the potential transmission of the SARS-CoV-2 between horse and humans. So bat is considered to be the natural evolutionary host in which the ancestral coronavirus has taken origin. And The SARS-CoV-2 which causes COVID-19 is believed to have originated from the bat coronavirus, which later infected wild animals and gradually evolved in the intermediate host after mutation and recombination. And what happened? The consumption of these animals by man, the wildlife business, they gave chance for SARS-CoV-2 to infect humans and domestic animals. It has been proven through studies that the SARS-CoV infection, that is the first outbreak of SARS in 2003, that was through civet cats. The Middle East respiratory syndrome was through mustelid camels. And even though not fully proven, it is believed that the COVID-19 infection has come from pangolins from the wet market of China. So, in the case of this virus, we have to give some redefinitions for these hosts, because in this case we cannot say the asexual phase of reproduction of the virus or the sexual case of reproduction of the virus, because we defined the definitive host and the intermediate host as those hosts in which the sexual phase of reproduction and asexual phase of reproduction of the parasite takes place respectively. But in the case of virus, it is not so. It has no sexual or asexual phase, but it simply multiplies inside the body of the host. So, here we have to redefine. In the case of viral infections, we have to redefine these hosts. So, here for a coronavirus, an animal is called as evolutionary host if it harbors a closely related ancestor sharing high similarity in the DNA sequences. So, the SARS-CoV-2 DNA is much similar to the bat coronavirus DNA. So, bat can be considered as the evolutionary host, in which is believed the ancestral virus must have taken its origin, but this virus is non-pathogenic in this host. Now, the reservoir host. A reservoir host harbors the coronavirus, the human coronavirus, continuously and for long term. The example is the camels, the dromedary camels, which passed the MERS-2 infection to humans. In both cases, that is in the case of evolutionary host and reservoir host, the hosts are naturally infected and are the natural hosts of human coronavirus. So, the evolutionary host and reservoir hosts are naturally infected. Now, we take the case of an intermediate host. If the coronavirus is newly introduced to a host around its introduction, around the time of its introduction to humans, either right before or around its introduction to humans in the evolutionary history, it can be called as an intermediate host. So, in the intermediate host, this virus can cause certain symptoms and ill effects. And this intermediate host can serve as the source of human infection. So, when humans get an infection from animals, it is called as a zoonotic infection. That is why COVID-19 is considered to be a zoonotic spillover. It is a zoonotic disease, that is a disease transmitted from animals to man. So, it is believed that the coronavirus has been introduced into the body of the intermediate host almost the same time as it was introduced to humans in the evolutionary history. So, it can serve as the zoonotic source of human infection, and they also play a role in multiplying the host by allowing the virus to replicate transiently inside the body and transmitting it to humans, thereby increasing the scale of human infection. And this intermediate host will also get the infection. So, the first outbreak of SARS-CoV, that is the severe acute respiratory distress syndrome of 2003, the palm civets were considered to be intermediate hosts. They amplified intermediate amplifying hosts which amplified the virus, which helped in replication of the virus. They are different from the reservoir hosts because they also got the infection. So, that is how we differentiate between differentiate among the evolutionary host, reservoir host and intermediate host in the case of such viral infections which are seen in humans as well as some related animals.